Okay, as we kick things off here, whenever I'm working with flash, I will always take the first shot with no flash connected. Hopefully, in this instance, I'll be seeing a black screen. As you can see, that's what we get. Then I can turn the flash on, see what we get there. We're taking the black screen to make sure there's no ambient light affecting the scene. So as we see here, there's a little bit of flare on the left hand side of the screen. Simple adjustment to the light, and then go back to where I was. Take another test shot. So these first few shots are getting the base settings correct, and then we can go into lighting the incense stick, as I will be doing now. And so we're going to light this, leave it for a couple of seconds, blow it out, and we should start to get smoke. These first couple of shots, I didn't see too much smoke, so I did take a couple of photos, but realised, as you'll see in the first few images, that nothing was really coming off. So this first image pops up, I have a look at it, can't see any smoke. So the next thing I was trying, and I will relight the incense stick, let it burn for a little bit longer than before I blow it out, and hopefully we'll get some smoke this time. There we go, I can actually see the smoke coming off it now. It is hard to see in this video, but we will see when the images pop up on screen. So this first image comes up, and the first thing I notice is the smoke isn't as bright as I would like it to be. The trigger system that I'm using is Godox triggers, Godox flashes, Pixar Pro if you buy them in the UK, but I can adjust the power settings using the trigger. So a couple of adjustments made it a little bit brighter. Take a couple more test shots. When I get to the point where I'm happy, as I am now, I'm pretty set up for the rest of the shoot, and it's just a case of taking the images, a little bit of variance. As you see now, just knock the incense stick every now and again. Either knock it with your finger, get somebody else to knock it, a little bit of a blow, just waft your hand across a little bit, just get some movement in the images. I generally don't use a tripod for smoke effects. One thing is that I like to move around a bit, so I can kind of go in, get some tighter shots, come back, get some more wider shots, whether I'm including the incense stick as part of the image or whether it's purely of the smoke. Also, as the incense sticks will burn down, and depending on how your lighting is set up, if your light is very direct, then as the incense stick burns down, you will get the light not hitting exactly where you want. So having not on a tripod and lights set up easy to move, I can be very flexible. However, if you do want to use a tripod, it does help. You can just get your focus and almost use a remote release. Don't have to keep focusing every shot or every few shots. There's benefits and disadvantages to both methods, but me personally, I don't use a tripod. I just find it gives me more flexibility to create different images. So the main thing with this is just get your lighting set up how you want it. When it's all set up, ready to go, the images are coming out how you want them, just take the photos. I'll continue taking these images, getting some variance. Some of it's manual focus, some of it's autofocus and recompose. If it's manual focus, I will do a few where I'm kind of edging forward so that some are in focus. I'll start a little bit further back because it can be tricky to manual focus on the actual smoke. Depending on how you've lit it, what type of lighting you've got in the room, it can be hard to actually see the smoke and get it in focus. So sometimes I will get it to where I think it's in focus, but then take like 2 or 3 shots in succession, moving ever so slightly forwards or backwards, hoping that one of them will be in focus. But most of the shots for this type of photography will be focus on the incense stick, because that is, even though it has been lit and blown out, so it's not still on fire, you can get a good focus point on that and then recompose for where the smoke is. As you see now, I'm going a little bit higher. If there is no air in the room and you're not moving much, the smoke will rise quite a lot and you'll get a lot of movement near the top. As I said before, you can just kind of either blow out, wave your hand a little bit, just create a little bit of movement. You can get the interesting shapes. But generally just get everything set up, take the photos and just see what you get. For these type of images, I don't use gels so much. I will generally, if I'm going to be using colours, I will do that in post-production. We will get to that later on. I will go through my post-processing techniques for these images and from start to finish what I do to get the images I get. As you see, just once it's all set up, your settings aren't going to change, your lighting is not going to change, just keep going. I will say for this, I was using a 100mm macro lens. I think I was on f11, camera sync speed, ISO, I think I was ISO 100. Camera sync speed, depending on if you know what it is and whether it works for which trigger system. 100th of a second is pretty safe for any trigger system, any camera manufacturer, any camera. You should be safe, you shouldn't be hitting your sync speed on that. So unless having it at 100th of a second is causing too much ambient light to come in, I generally stick to 100th of a second, ISO 100, and then whatever aperture you want. I went with f11 for this one, just so that as the smoke moves a little bit, it should keep a good depth of field in there. So yes, if there is no movement, the smoke should go just straight up, but there will be movement in the room and you will create movement. So it might move a little bit forward, a little bit back. And also if you are focusing, recomposing, there will be a slight variance of where you're focused on. But it's all about experimenting, have fun. It's a very simple setup, so you can give it a go. If you don't like your results, try it again. Try a different setup, try 2 lights. You might want to try using gels with it. That's totally up to you. As I said, simple setup. Takes about half an hour, if that. Get the images and take it from there. Alright, we'll leave this going and I'll come back when it's time for editing. Okay, so now we come to the editing process. I was shooting tethered, so all of the images have come straight into Lightroom. The first thing I would do is go through the images one by one. Anything that kind of catches my eye, I will mark as 1 star, either give it a star rating, give it a pick, or give it a colour rating. So for this section, I've decided to, anything to catch my eye, give it a blue colour rating. Then later on I can kind of come back, and anything that I've marked as blue I can work on further. I won't go through the whole process. If I was doing this myself, I would go through every single image and mark them down, but I think we took about 260 photos in that short session. Don't really want to go through everything, so for the sake of this video I will skip a few. Generally just kind of scroll through anything that catches my fancy, just mark it for viewing later on. As you can see, I was shooting tethered, so all the images come straight into Lightroom. That is my editing software of choice, and you can see that even straight from camera they're usable. You don't really have to do much editing. If you've got a black background that is going to stay black, if you've got the lighting set up so it's not hitting the background to create nasty shadows, and if you've not got any flare, you can generally, if you wanted to, just basic edits, a little bit of contrast, a little bit of clarity, and you're good. But we will go on to more advanced techniques to create colour and show that in more detail. So I'm still going through, selecting some that are worth editing. I did some where I relit the incense stick to try and get the flame with the smoke. Didn't quite work as I wanted, because when it was lit the flame was there but the smoke wasn't coming off, but we'll go with that for now. So these are all the images I selected that I marked as blue, and now we're going to go to develop those. It did apply a preset as they came in, which I wasn't meant to do. So you can go and reset every single item by double clicking on the little arrow. However, if it has applied a preset you don't want, you can just go to your settings, reset, that resets everything. So now we'll start from scratch. As the raw files coming in, I will add sharpening, a little bit of masking so it only sharpens where I want it to sharpen, so just sharpen the smoke. Don't need any noise reduction, shooting at ISO 100. All these, for this type of image, I'm not really going to touch much else there, so go back to the basic panel, take the highlights and the whites up, bring the blacks down, just play about with this. Everything in Lightroom is non-destructive, so if you do get to a point where you think, oh, I've really messed this up, you can always reset it. Add a bit of clarity, add a bit of texture, bring the variance up or down, but you can see from later on we're going to play about a lot with the different colours. Play about with the white balance and vibrance and saturation. Again, we'll go into the tone curve, give it a little bit of contrast, bring the brights a bit lighter, bring the darks a bit darker. Now for your colours, hit the Hsl panel is where a lot of it can be done. So this is where you're affecting individual colours, you're affecting the hue, the saturation and the luminance of each colour. So as it was set up, a lot of it is a blue. So I'm playing about the blues and the purples. When I've got it to where I want it, I can then sync all those settings to every other image that I've marked. Generally I'll do everything apart from your spot healing, your crop, any local adjustments, sync it all across, and then as you go through each image you'll see that it has applied all the settings to them. When I've got an image that's done, I will mark it as 1, so then that's a kind of, yes, that image has been done. It's set up star rating as 1, that's good. So onto this next image, start cropping it, get the crop I want, and then we're going to play a bit with colours again. I can take it saturation down, black and white, and then play about with any of the sliders. just drag it. If you don't know what a slider does, drag it to one side, drag it to the other, see what it does. You can always set it back to where you want it. So that one marked as 1, we'll leave that as is, black and white image. Onto this next image, get the crop. Again, we're going to play about the colours. Now this is where we can adjust different colours. I've reduced all the saturation. I'm going to apply a graduated filter, and the only setting it's going to apply to the image is a colour. So it's going to apply it to the whole image because I've dragged it away from the image. And simple as that to add a bit of colour. That is the main reason why I don't use gels, rather than messing about, or do I want a purple gel, do I want a green gel. I can do pretty much all of it in post-production. It's the same as if there's something you can fix that's going to take you 5 minutes on your shoot, whereas it could take you half an hour in Photoshop. Do it on the shoot. In this instance, I know I can in a few seconds do it in Lightroom, so I don't even bother messing about on the shoot actually colouring gels. Again, you'll see there I use the split toning, change the highlights, change the shadows, change the colour for them. And then there's also the adjustment brush. You can select different areas of the photo and apply different settings to different areas of the photo. So here I'm literally just applying a kind of reddish colour to certain parts of the photo. It applies it on top of what was there already, so there might be a bit of blue that's kind of seeping into it. Now I'm going to create a new one, a bit of blue in different areas, so this is a kind of blue and pinky type look for it. But as with everything, just play about with it. See what the different panels do, what the adjustment brushes do. So for this one, I'm going to show you how to do something completely different. We are going to invert the image. So in the tone curve, you're just creating a opposite diagonal line. It will take everything that's black, will turn it white, everything that's white will turn it black. However, because it is then inverted, your sliders are inverted. So you change the whites and it's affecting the blacks. You change the blacks and it's affecting what's white in the image. So this one we're just going to leave as a kind of black and white but inverted image. This one we're going to do that same image, same style, but we're going to take it further. So I've just taken exactly the same settings as the previous image, applied them to this one. But what we're going to do now is mess about with colour on this one. So exactly the same theory as the other one, but we're painting with a blue brush and it's not coming out as blue. Because we've inverted the image, it's going to be a different colour. So I will colour over an image and then go to the colour picker. If you kind of move it around, you'll see kind of what colour that's going to give you. So yes, if it's a normal image and you haven't inverted it, you paint on with blue, it will give you a blue. If you paint on with blue when you've inverted it, it's giving you a greeny type colour. Again, just see what suits you. Again, we're messing about with split toning, changing the colour of the shadows, and playing about. The editing is relatively quick on most of these. I won't take too much time. It's a simple shoot, quick, easy shoot. Most of the images are going to be same settings as the previous ones, and then just slight alterations. So for this one, I'm just making sure that the background is pitch black. Just getting it to the point where it's literally all the black is pure black. There's no kind of dark greys in the background. Adjusting the white balance to get the variance in colours. The general process with these images for me is work on your first image, get that set up how you want. The first image, I don't generally mess about with the colour too much. It's more about getting the exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, blacks, clarity and texture. Get all them sorted, sync those settings across all of your images. Then going through your images, adjusting the colours. So some of them I will leave as they were, where it's a black background and the smokes are kind of whitey blue. Adjusting the colour using white balance, using HSL, using split toning, using local adjustments, so your graduated filter, maybe your radial filters, your adjustment brush, using those tools to add the colours onto them. And then some of them I will invert, so all the blacks will become whites, all the whites will become blacks. You'll get a white background with a black smoke image. Some of them look nice just as a black and white, or you can do the same colour effects with them, so turning it inverted, white background, and then a kind of coloured smoke, whether it's like one colour or whether it's split toned or anything really. You could have a kind of rainbow colour, like get your adjustment brush, start at the bottom, have the bottom bit a little bit red, go into your orange, then your yellows. Just do whatever you want, play about. These are very abstract images. It's not specifically, oh, this is a smoke image, so you expect it to be a kind of black and white or a kind of light blue image. They're abstract, they are shapes and waves of smoke. Sometimes if you didn't say what it was, you wouldn't necessarily know it was smoke, so it can be whatever you want it to be. It's one of the things where have a play about with it, take it into Photoshop, just try things. If you're sticking with Lightroom, as I said before, remember Lightroom is non-destructive. If you get to a point where you've totally messed up, you don't know what you've done, right click on your images, go to settings, reset. That takes you back to exactly how it was when it first started, and work on it from there. Just have fun, just play about. It's one of the things where it's a simple setup, it's easy to do. You can do it with just one light, as this image shows. This was my kind of wide shot for a setup image. You can see the smoke, you can see the one light. Yeah, just try it, play about with it. It's a learning curve, as with all photography. If you get the images and you realise, oh, they won't focus properly, give it another go. If the light wasn't in the correct position, give it another go. It's a simple setup, one light, incense stick, light it, take some photos, have fun. Something to do, nice and easy. You don't have to do it at any time of day or night. The only thing really is you need a kind of room where a lot of people aren't moving around, so you don't necessarily want to do it in your back garden, or you don't want to do it when you've got your kids running around, because you will want some nice smoke images where they're going just straight up. But have fun.